living life on a merry-go-round. You can find out. Hi, it's Tuesday evening, and I am really excited that you are joining me. I got Andre Day in the background singing Rise Up because that's what we have to do. We're going to have to rise up and unlearn some of the things that we've learned so we can be healthy, be here for ourselves. I'm Deloria Nelson Street, CRO, or Chief Rest Officer of Authentic Culture and Engagement Solutions. And this is Transformation Tuesday, week 3 of today is April 28th. We've been taught that resilience is about pushing through, but what if that's what's really burning people out? I want to welcome everybody back, and I want to start the way we've been starting. I want us to pause, and I want us to breathe. Let's do that again. Let's pause, and let's breathe. Because if we want to talk about burnout, we really can't rush through the conversation. And it's hard to slow down. I know it's hard for all of us. We have all the hats, all the responsibilities, and we are like rushing through, checking boxes, but not necessarily being present. So I want us to really work on that. All right, Andre Day, you can stop. Alexa, stop. I just needed some music, and a lot of times music is very therapeutic. So the first week, we reframed burnout, and we talked about burnout not just as individuals, but as structural, because the reality, a lot of times burnout is caused because of things being misaligned. It's us thinking we have to do everything, but it's also the systems, the places we work, sometimes even the systems within our family, almost forcing us to always do more. And so week 2, we talked about rest, but today I'm going to challenge something we've all been taught. And I really need you to hear this. I'm going to challenge resilience. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to challenge resilience. Because we've been taught that resilience looks like this. Keep going, push through, don't stop, handle it. What if that's exactly what's burning us all out? The keep going, the push through, the you can handle it. Let's talk about the misconception of somewhere along the way we confuse resilience with endurance. Endurance is about how long can I keep going no matter what. Resilience is how well can I adapt without losing myself. I'm going to say that again because I think we have to unlearn and we're going to have to really retrain ourselves. So many of us have been trained to keep going. You got this. Don't be weak. Just push through, push through, push through. And it's really to our own demise. So we are having to unlearn what we think resilience is. And I am putting in a new definition. So let's talk about it again. Endurance is how long can I keep going no matter what? And resilience is how well can I adapt without losing myself? The without losing myself, that has to be the most important part. If your version of resilience requires you to ignore your limits, that's not resilience, that's survival. If your version of resilience requires you to ignore your limits, that's not resilience, that's survival. And we don't want to just survive, we want to thrive. Let's talk about what we're seeing globally. People are dealing with constant change, uncertainty, workload pressure, caregiver responsibilities. I know I have the caregiver responsibilities. You know, my mom was recently in the hospital, so meeting with the different care teams, all of those things, caregiving at home. Sometimes you're caregiving for children as well as your parents. And we're all being asked to adjust over and over again. But without the support, the clarity, or the space to actually adapt well, it doesn't work. I've seen this in organizations, but I've also lived it, right? You learn how to pivot, how to adjust, how to make it work. And then people start calling you resilient. And you're like, oh, okay, I am. But we got to be careful. That resilience trope that keeps putting us in no-win situations, continue beating your head against the wall, that's not the kind of resilience that we should want. Because here's the reality. What they don't see is what it's costing us to keep adapting without ever resetting. Nobody sees that. They say, oh, Dee is so resilient, or oh, Sherry, or oh, she's so resilient. She can handle anything. And they give you more. And sometimes we wear that R on our chest like Superwoman or Superman. And oh yeah, I'm resilient. But the cost is way too high. So here's a new definition, because this is my definition. Let me define resilience in a way that actually serves us. We don't have to take anything that doesn't serve us. We don't have to carry the definition that our parents gave or that other people say. We get to define it for ourselves. Resilience is not pushing through. It's learning how to pivot, adjust, and still be whole. Let me say that again, because this is the definition of resilience I want you to get in your head. And so when you think of resilience, we're not thinking about pushing through. We're learning how to pivot, adjust, and still be whole. The first part is awareness, right? Recognizing when something isn't working, right? I've tried this. Maybe it's a job. Maybe it's your work schedule. Maybe it's having your child in 20 after school activities and you're running raggedy. It's recognizing when something is no longer working. After awareness, it's adjustment. When you realize it's not working, you owe it to yourself to adjust. You need to shift how you respond. If it was the 20 activities, you have to say to your child, hey, you need to pick one or two, right? Because if we run ourselves raggedy, we serve no one. And then the third is alignment, right? Making sure that we don't lose ourselves in the process. If you are going to 20 different things, you are just going through the motions. A lot of times we commit to all these things and we're not present. It would have been better to commit to one or two things and really be engaged and in it than commit to all. So once again, I want you to learn this. There are three things that we need to do when it comes to resilience so we can recognize it. It's 3 A's. The first is awareness. Hey, something is off. This isn't working. Adjustment. Okay, since it's not working, I'm not going to push through. That's the old definition. I'm going to adjust. I'm going to pivot. I'm going to shift how I respond. And finally, it's making sure alignment, making sure I don't lose myself in the process. I'm not going to just keep going just because I said I would. We get to change our minds if it's not healthy. So those are the 3 parts I want you to really, really think about. Because there really is a design flaw. I did a session Friday at UCF. It was a great session. So shout out if anybody on the call was at that session. But burnout is real. And there were tears and people talking about it. But we have been so groomed, trained, it's reinforced that we just keep going no matter what, that we really don't know how to stop. And we have to, right? So if people are constantly adapting to broken systems and we call them that resilience, we're asking people to compensate with what the system should fix. There was a young lady in the audience, I think was from the UK, and she was like, it's a US issue. People don't work like crazy over in these other countries. They get more vacation. Some of them have 30-hour weeks, 35-hour weeks. But, when we ask people to compensate for what the system should fix, that's not resilience. That's a design flaw. So let me ask you 3 questions to sit with. I want to give you 3 questions to sit with. The first one is personal. Ask yourself, where am I pushing through when I actually need to pivot? Where am I pushing through when I actually need to pivot, right? What am I trying to force that I need to change? Okay, so just think about that. You don't have to answer it out loud. From a team perspective, am I rewarding people for adapting or supporting them in how they adapt, right? Am I rewarding people? Am I supporting them? Or am I rewarding them for beating their head up against the wall, for just pushing through and saying, oh, that person is great, instead of really trying to support them and helping them adapt when you see something is not working? From an organizational perspective, are we designing for constant change or are we just reacting to it, right? Resilience, the new definition, is really designing for change, building a change-proof team so they know how to pivot, right? Because change is constant, as opposed to not and then reacting and stressing out and working 50, 60 hours to figure it out as though it's new. We know that change is coming. So organizations have to ask themselves the question, are we designing for constant change or are we just reacting to it? So when you hear resilience now, does it feel like strength or pressure? Let me see it in the comments. When you hear resilience, now that we've talked about it for a few minutes, does it feel like strength or pressure? Does resilience feel like strength or does it feel like pressure? Let me see if I can see anything in the comments. Yes, somebody said, are you a mother? Because I am. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask that question one more time. Does resilience feel like pressure? What does it feel like right now? When you hear resilience and you think about it, does it feel like strength or does it feel like pressure? Yeah, it feels like pressure, right? I think when you know how to pivot, it feels like strength. But a lot of times, to me, it feels like pressure because once again, here's something people expect me to do. This is a no-win situation, but people expect me to push through. And that's not healthy. And we'll talk about resistance next week, but I'm not going to keep pushing through something that I know is unhealthy. Because here's the reality. Resilience should not cost you your well-being. It should help you protect it. Resilience should not cost you your well-being. It should help you protect it. And if the way that we're defining resilience is leading to burnout, then it's time to redefine it, right? And that's what I'm doing. Let's redefine it. I challenge us all to redefine it to something that's healthy, that'll help us be whole, because a lot of what we're doing is not working. So I appreciate you joining, whether you join live or whether you catch it on the replay, because this is serious. This is important. And every now and then you think, okay, yeah, this is important, but I'm not sure if people get it. But if I had any doubt, last week after speaking to about 130 people and really having to shut the place down because there were more questions than there were time, and admissions of just working, never taking vacation, not knowing how to say no. It was what I needed for me to keep going, to say, yeah, this is a message worth sharing, and we're going to have to keep doing it. So next week, we are going into something powerful, resistance. And not resistance the way you think, but the kind of resistance that allows you to challenge what's not working and build something better, right? Challenging is one thing, but building something better, that's the sweet spot, right? So if this resonated with you, please share it, tag someone, and keep the conversation of hashtag 3R with Coach D, hashtag Transformation Tuesday with Coach D. I'm going to say this, and I want you to hear it the way I say it. Pushing through is not a strategy, it's a warning sign. I'm going to say that one more time. Pushing through is not a strategy, it's a warning sign. Yeah, this one is about permission. I got to give everybody permission, and we need to give ourselves permission to redefine what no longer serves us, right? Because if you've been calling it resilience and it's costing you, then it's time to redefine it. So I appreciate you joining. We'll be here same time, same channel next Tuesday. And next Tuesday, we will be talking about resistance. So have a wonderful evening, but think about what you're pushing through and what you're pivoting on. All right? Have a great night. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.